that fuse block. I think it's just gonna go in behind here. It's not super easy access to get to, which would be nice if it was, but it's probably the best option I have. That means I have to pull all of this off. I'm probably gonna have to disconnect all the gauges. I've been driving it quite a bit actually since I got all the sound deadening stuff done, and I'm super happy with it. It's actually been really nice to drive around in. The other thing, I did the headliner, so you can see it in the car, and it looks like absolute trash, and it's really getting worse. So you can see that all of this front part has peeled down, and it turns out that this glue is really just not good for heat. It doesn't like the heat at all. This is peeling down, and I'm actually kind of happy about it because that means I actually don't think it's gonna be too hard to take it off, which I wanna do because I'm not happy with how it looks at all. So I'm gonna take it off, and then I have to come up with some other method to finish it. It's gonna now be covered in soap. It's gonna be covered in glue, and you'll be able to maybe see that right here. So you can just see it's kind of nasty. I'm not really sure what's gonna work now. I got the headliner out. It sucked. It really sucked. It actually is a pain in the dick to get that fucking thing out. Excuse my language. The real issue with the headliner is that it's the size of the entire ceiling of the car, which means it's like bigger than either of the doors, you know? So getting it out of the car is really hard. It's really big. It's really big. I'm working on the headliner over here, but let me just show you this real quick. I got the gauge panel out. This is the hole. So I have a bunch of organizing to do in here as far as wiring, and that's kind of the idea for this fuse block anyway, is to get all of this to kind of make sense. I'm gonna move this, so I think I've talked about this before. This switch is what turns on my radiator fans, and it also is the power for the temperature gauge right here. So I'm gonna have to deal with a bunch of wiring, but that's not too bad. Headliner right here. I'm leaving it in the sun, and of course it's black, so that really helps. It's like, it's getting real hot. Like, it's actually hot to touch it. So this is actually peeling up pretty good. I'm working my way around. Some of this stuff is just barely coming loose. Actually, I'm just going around the edges, and as it kind of loosens up, I take a little bit more. So I'm going in from all sides, and eventually I should sort of get into the middle where it'll all come off. And I'm pretty stoked that it's even gonna come off, so I can hopefully reuse this headliner and not have to look for a new one. All right, so this is actually only like 10 minutes after. The last coming off like really good. You can see most of it is, you know, I'm pretty far through it now, but it does take two hands to do it, so I'm not gonna really be able to show it on video unless I had a tripod or something, which I don't right now. Probably the next thing for me to do as far as video stuff goes is to get a tripod and start to, you know, really put some more effort into showing you stuff like this. I would love to have more kind of DIY, like kind of giving advice and my perspective on how to do stuff. You know, with, I guess, the idea that I know what I'm talking about, which I don't really, but I can tell you from experience about a lot of things, and this is one of them, you know. I completely f***ed this thing up, and I'm now learning how to fix it. There it is. That's the headliner, and this is the fabric that was on it. On one hand, I'm happy that it's off. On the other hand, look at this damn thing. It's messed up. I might try and take some of the glue off, maybe. Maybe I can clean it up a little bit just so it's not so obvious.
But I'm a motherfucking star, bitch, they ain't you know.
So I've actually decided to do a little bit of work inside the car first before I really finish up what I want to do with the headliner. I can't really decide what to do, so I'm gonna do this first, I guess, or at least I'm gonna do some of it. I have the gauge panel off, and I put my new fuse block in here. So I actually got lucky. You can see on this side, you see this stud right here sticking up, not doing anything? Well, we got the same thing over there. You can't really see it anymore, but it is an M6 stud focus. That's the fuse block right there. And yeah, it's on a post, so I have just a single screw, or I guess nut, holding it in. And that's plenty, I think. It's like, that's solid. Solid enough anyway. It's not like there's gonna be a lot of force on it. So, now what I have to do is run a bunch of wiring. Gotta chop a bunch of wire out of this. This is for the wideband. There's just a ton of wire that you don't really need. This was all of the wire that I had for my oxygen sensor. So the sensor wire comes from down here, and then there's a plug. So this is on the left side right there. That's what goes down to the actual wideband sensor that's in my exhaust. But then this right here, this connector goes to this white connector, which is what plugs into the actual gauge. This is all that's left, is this, like, you know, 8 inches or whatever of wire, which is still absolutely plenty. This one is power for the gauge. That's wired in here now. So that's got, that power is on the fuse block. So that's using the first thing in the fuse block. The second thing is this blue one, which goes to my fan controller. So this is the relay wire. Right here is the relay wire for the fan controller. And then this one right here, this end, is gonna go into temperature gauge. This is the sensor wire right here. Or no, this is the sensor wire. They're all the same color, so I kind of have to just figure it out as I go. That's something that I really need to improve on, is color coding stuff. Oh, and this right here is the ground. I need to actually put a, I'm gonna add another ground to this right here. That's sort of my under dash ground that I've decided to use, and seems to work so far. What I'm gonna do with this purple wire is, this is actually gonna be my daytime running lights. I'm gonna run something from here into the engine bay, and then it's actually going to power my parking lights, or at least that's my plan for now. I need some kind of daytime running lights in Canada, and I'm pretty sure the parking lights will do the job. I also want to splice off of this to go to my new gauge voltage meter. I'm going to actually mount this, I think, into my my gauge panel. It's going to be on there, and I'm gonna use this thing. So this right here is my 12-volt power adapter. I'm gonna put this, I think I've decided that I wanna put it back here. It's gonna poke through the dash right around here somewhere. I want it somewhere that's not in the vicinity of my shifting and, you know, being able to see the gauges and all that stuff. I think that's all for now. So I don't know how much more I'm really gonna get done today. What up, guys? So right now I'm doing a little bit more work on the headliner. I really have to poop. So here's the deal. I need to clean this off. I already talked about it before, and we're gonna see if it's even possible. I really don't even know. I've got myself some paint thinner substitute and a pile of white rags, and I really hope this works. Okay. We're getting somewhere. You can probably tell up to, you know, somewhere around here I've done a fair amount of cleaning, and I'm sure in the sunlight it's hard to see. I would recommend highly that you never have to do this, because it really does suck. It's hard. It's really hard to remove this stuff. It's going actually better than I kind of thought. I thought maybe it wasn't going to work at all. I thought either it was going to work really good and it was just going to dissolve the glue and it would just wipe off and it would be easy, or I thought it would just not work at all. And it's definitely somewhere in between. The method for doing this is, quite honestly, just being really, really patient. I had gloves on before, but you grab a rag, you pour some acetone on it, and you basically just find a spot, maybe like, you know, 2 by 2 inch square, something like that, and just do circles. You can see, obviously, there's lots of white specks all over, and you can still make out some, there's little lines here and there where it was the heaviest glue. I think I'm just gonna do the best I can with what I've got here. I'm planning to actually do essentially the same thing I did with the carpet in the car, which is using that spray dye stuff. Hopefully there'll be as little sort of remnant lines as possible. Things like these little white fuzzies, it's actually not going to be that bad, I don't think, once it's been dyed, because everything will be the same color, so it's not really going to be obvious anymore. And hopefully then I can just say good enough and throw it back in the car and I'll be happy with it. You know what? Being able to salvage this would be pretty cool, because I kind of thought I might have to just get a new one. Okay, so I've done pretty much what I think I can do as far as solvent and rags. It looks like I'm going to be able to salvage it. You know, there's splotches around here that the adhesive just doesn't come off of. There's a lot of fuzzies, right? Right now what I'm actually doing is Scotch-Brite, and it's working. It's actually working pretty well, and I don't know, I'm not super happy with it because it's abrasive, so, you know, it's not ideal to be using something abrasive on carpet. It's been lots of hours to get this far. Probably a lot more than I should have spent. Like, if you consider the amount of money that I would have had to spend on a replacement one, assuming I could find it, I don't think it would be that expensive. It's just, they're kind of rare, and I'd really like to find a way to salvage it if I can. That's something I believe, especially older cars, if you can salvage the parts, if you can even just give away old parts just so somebody can reuse them, I think that's the right thing to do, because these cars are not going to be around forever, and parts are pretty rare because you can't buy new stuff anymore. Okay, it's as clean as I think it's going to get, and so I'm going to go ahead and start spraying it with my vinyl fabric coating, which is spray paint, but I guess it's dye, I don't know. But there's definitely a lot of imperfections. I did my best. It's just gonna be what it is. Probably needs about 3 coats, I would think. And this can's probably only 3/4 full. So, oh, that's probably really bright. So, hopefully I can get through it. Okay, well, here's how it looks after emptying the can that I had, which was about 3/4 of a can, I think, and it looks okay. I'm not gonna say I'm super fond of the sort of coverage here, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and grab another can. I don't really want to spend any more money on this thing, but I guess it would be best to just get it done. Now I'm waiting for my headliner to dry. I'm doing, I have probably one more coat. The next thing I need to work on is installing this, you know, a standard power 12-volt adapter thing that most cars would have for a cigarette lighter. And I'm pretty sure I've decided that I want it to go right here. I'm looking at the backside here, and I think there's plenty of room, plastic to drill through right here and to mount it. I have to somehow point the center of where I want it to go so that I know it's in a good spot here and hopefully a good spot on the other side. I bought a drill. This is how I'm gonna do it. I've never had my own drill. I've borrowed a million of them, and of course my dad had them and all that stuff, but this is my first like power tool that I've bought in ages. And a spade bit. Spade bits are super underrated. This is something that people just don't really think about, but if you need to drill a big hole, getting a giant 1/8 drill bit is not really ideal. And in a lot of ways, I think spades are actually better than hole saws. It depends on what you're drilling and sort of what you expect to get out of the cut. But these guys are really good for plastic and aluminum, and of course wood. They're really they're mainly meant for wood, but they're really not bad for plastic or aluminum. You wouldn't use it on steel, of course, but I think kind of underrated, and they work really, really well. So I just need a center for this guy, and then I'll drill a hole through here. I'm just hoping that this thing doesn't start shredding stuff up. I hope it just makes a clean hole. I really do, but I have no idea if it will or not, and maybe you're gonna watch me make a huge mistake, but I think we're gonna be okay. There we go. Huge mess. Look at this. Layer of foam and then plastic behind it. Here's how it looks when you put the thing in there. Ta-da! Not so bad. It actually looks fairly clean. Go. Here's a shot of the inside. Oh, I still need the dome. Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, okay. Oh, it works. It looks good. Obviously not perfect, and I did a lot of damage to it. Driver's side over here, it's broken. It's actually broken, the material. So, but man, it looks a lot better than the last time I did it, and it's probably an improvement on what it looked like originally, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool that I went through all of that, and it's still an improvement. It's not like a major improvement anymore, because it would have been really cool with that fabric, but I think it's overall an improvement anyway, and so I'm happy that it's done. I got the 12-volt adapter installed. It's in there, but a big mess occurred. Okay, there we go. All together. I have them all on a nice little angle. like so. It's gonna be good. I like it. I think it looks pretty good with that one there. And there's still space for one more gauge. Full size, you know, 2-inch, 52 mil gauge. So, pretty stoked. I think I'm pretty much done. I did a bunch of wiring and I don't really know how to film it. A lot of it is in really tight quarters, but I'm gonna try and show you, and of course the camera's not gonna focus on most of this, but first off I had to organize a lot of the wiring under here. So I put most of it together. It's not 100% complete. I still need to tighten up the oil and boost lines, but I just want to make sure it works. And I haven't even tested it yet, so I might just throw the radio together too. There we go. So I just plugged in the battery. Okay, there you go. Everything here has power, so cool. Okay, and it's back together. It looks good. It looks good. Everything seems to work. So before I used to have the water sensor would have been on a switch that's now gone, but you'll be able to see. So the other ones are obvious, but when I turn the key, you'll see the needle move. Eventually, if I focus, there you go. So obviously that's working. I got my voltage. That's my wideband. Radio is on. I checked the voltage on here using my multimeter, and that's working too. So, success!